Okay, this is gonna be about Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm just gonna say a couple things about it. The one thing that was very funny about Sonic was it did this. I call it being a little grounded. I think Sonic was a little bit more grounded than most movies like this. And by movies like this, I mean the cartoon coming out of the TV screen type movies or another dimension type movies, and it's usually made for kids. Smurfs, Fat Albert. But what made this movie made this movie a little bit different from those, not completely different, but a little bit different, is the fact that it's this part in the movie. It's these parts in the movie where, how in other movies like Fat Albert or something like that, because it's for kids, they do this thing where a character will selectively choose what to acknowledge and what not to acknowledge, or act almost as if they don't have an IQ of an adult. I felt like in this one, they felt like adults. Like when I'm not saying that they felt real. Jim Carrey is not a real person. Or even Marston, he's not a real person. But it was understandable how they were, though. The fact that Jim Carrey just threw in there that he was an orphan or something like that. Like, I thought that was really cool. There's something very different about this movie. There are jokes. There are scenes. It just... Marston took it seriously. You know what I mean? Like, what would happen if I were a guy who was in a small town and, didn't really have to worry about anything because how everyone is, how everything is, nothing different ever happens here, then yeah, you're going to act a certain way. And he acted that way. He didn't act like they didn't make it into, when he finally finds Sonic, they didn't make it into some sort of scary scene that's going to make it where he's going to jump out and then it's going to be Sonic and he's going to be like, hey, how you doing? Like, no, it was like Sonic was just in the shed. He was about to do something else. Marston walks in. He's not thinking that a blue hedgehog is going to be in his goddamn shed. So he's just like, oh, yeah, listen, raccoons, you need to get the fuck out. Whoa, you know what I mean? It's like it was the most realistic take you could do with a blue hedgehog. And I like that. And I think that's what makes this movie so much more different than any other one of these movies. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really good. Everybody, I think, cared about this movie and did a good job with this movie. Now, this movie, if you would have given it a grade, it would probably be a C. It's not the greatest of films. But I would say, if we were comparing it to a Fat Albert, then I would give it definitely an A. It's better than that one. You know what I mean? But compare it to something like Finding Nemo, maybe a C, right? C, maybe C+. So this movie has problems, obviously, but the moments are fun. Like, I didn't have fun with the entire movie, but you knew the parts that were for you, and you knew as a full-grown adult, I knew which parts were for me and which parts were for, the kid who's in the room, right? Like, for instance, there's a fart in the movie. You have to ignore that. I mean, come on, right? You know what I mean? Like, a kid is gonna laugh at it. You're not, because you're a grown-ass man, but still, even before that, you have something like the highway chase, where after the highway chase, they go to, a sister's house, And the sister is hilarious. Like, she's just like being an adult. Like, but it's really, really funny just due to the fact that they aren't ignoring this stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they when they do something or they say something or something happens, they don't just ignore it. They really go for what exactly they're doing. Like, he points out what exactly he's doing, which is it's crazy because movies don't do this. Movies don't do this. So I thought it was really, really funny. I thought it had some pretty funny moments in there. Nothing too funny, but it was funny enough. You know what I mean? I feel like this movie has such a low expectation for it because we know how these movies usually are, that the fact that we got something like this is just, I don't know, it's kind of refreshing. It's like Shazam, where everybody kept on saying that Shazam was this refreshing movie because we had gotten to a point where every single superhero movie at that point was extremely serious. But then Shazam comes along and it shows you like, oh shit, yeah, no, like superheroes are like fun. And if I were a superhero, I would probably be doing some stupid ass shit with it and going to strip clubs and shit. And Sonic is kind of like that. Sonic is kind of like that in the sense that, you know, we know kid friendly, you know, not necessarily Pixar, but just cheap cash grab type movie like this. And I can't even think of it. I think the last one I could only think of is maybe either Smurfs or Alvin and the Chipmunks. But that's a good one. Alvin and the Chipmunks. You know, Alvin and the Chipmunks, like, it's one of those movies. It has one theme. It focuses on that theme, but you know, that theme can't be in all of the movie because you could make that theme into, you know, 20 minutes. That could be a 20 to 30 minute video. So what do? You put a bunch of kid jokes in there. You put a bunch of stupid, silly humor in there. You put a bunch of fart jokes. You put just a bunch of stuff happens between where you start off and where you want to be. And this movie did it too. There's an entire scene that's supposed to be the road trip, which I put my fingers up and did the bunny rabbit thing because, you know, they're called quotations. I put quotations up because, you know, it's not really a road trip, but it was just enough for you to believe it, which is pretty cool. They could have did more with it, most definitely. I mean, you know, they could have definitely did more with it. There was a bunch of stuff that they could have easily explained and stuff like that. But, you know, the pacing, like the pacing of the movie, you know, it goes from the beginning to the end like that. I mean, as soon as Sonic and him meet up, it's pretty much almost the end of the movie. So you know, it's not the longest movie. It's not, but it's not. That's not a bad thing either. You know, as far as camera work, everyone does their job. Like, you see everything that happens is there. I was expecting a cooler shot, not a cool shot, but a cooler shot, meaning they had their cool shot in it. It wasn't cool enough for me. But that's literally my personal opinion. That has nothing to do with anything. Like, that has nothing to do with the movie at all. I think the movie did a fantastic job. That's just my real personal opinion. I thought the shot that they did, I thought the one moment, and you'll know what moment it is, I thought it would have been much, much cooler, but it wasn't. But that's okay, because they still did something with it, which is they didn't need to. Yeah, I think this movie tried harder than the other movies. And you know what's weird is, while I was in the theater, I was constantly thinking about two things. One, I was thinking about Birds of Prey and that whole debacle. I don't want to go back to that. I already said what I wanted about that. But the other thing I was thinking about was, what would Sonic look like with that original thing, with that original CGI monstrosity that we want to kill with fire. What would he look like? What would he, you know what I mean? Like, I would be freaked out if that voice came out of that little hedgehog. So, I mean, they just made a phenomenal choice, and it almost seems like just that one choice made the entire movie way more tolerable than it needed to be, which is pretty cool. And also, there's like a lore behind it too, which they didn't need to do that. So the fact that they made this entire, like, I don't know, like, background lore type thing that they want to explore but not necessarily, is pretty cool. I mean, I don't know who wrote this movie, but, you know, it seems like there was a person who wrote this movie who really, really loved Sonic and really, really wanted to make like a super dope Sonic movie. But as usual, studios, they have to sell the movie. They have to sell it to kids. So instead of letting the person have everything, they let the person have these little Easter eggs, these little side things, these little side pieces that you maybe never even known about Sonic, and made a very generic movie that everybody can take a bite out of, so that nothing, no one gets turned off by this movie. And it worked. But I know it sounds like now I'm creating a conspiracy theory, but I'm just saying someone knew what they were doing with this movie. Someone. I don't know who. I don't know if it was a writer. I don't know if it was the improv from the actors. I don't know. But someone knew exactly what they were doing with this movie. And I'm not saying it's a phenomenal piece of work, like I've said several times, but somewhere along the line, somebody was like, let's make this. It doesn't have to necessarily be crap. It doesn't. This can be a movie that actually wants to do something or say something. Now, that being said, was the movie the best one of the year? No. It wasn't even the best movie that I've seen of this caliber, but still, considering that first they changed Sonic, then they came out and made this generic thing into what it is, which is funnish, exciting-ish, really good moments, and characters that you could sit down and chill for a minute with them. You couldn't, they're not the type of characters where you're going to call every single day. But, if they're at this place and you have to talk to them, they're not the worst people to talk to. They could be way worse. They're not the worst people to talk to. I thought it was really good. I thought it was really well thought out. I thought this movie was it was entertaining. It was a good waste of 2 hours. It wasn't something that I regretted at all. And funny enough, I am excited for the sequel that is inevitably going to come. It's gonna be dope. And yeah, that's really all my thoughts about that movie. I thought it was really, really dope. I thought it was really, really good. I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't even talk about Jim Carrey. Yeah, everybody's saying Jim Carrey was phenomenal. He was fantastic. He was amazing. He was Jim Carrey. Like I'm not saying he was bad. That's not me saying he was bad. He was Jim Carrey. Like Jim Carrey is Jim fucking Carrey. He's going to be Jim Carrey in every single movie, even the serious ones. He's going to be Jim Carrey. He was Jim Carrey in this one. He was great. I enjoyed him. I enjoyed his backstory. You could easily tell that he was not phoning anything in. I could watch him but I could always watch him. I could watch him since Living Color. So, it's not a surprise that I like Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey was phenomenal. Jim Carrey's going to continue to be phenomenal. So, as far as Jim Carrey, he was Jim Carrey. Sonic, he was good. I would love to see more of the world of Sonic, if that would be anything that they could do in the future. But other than that, yeah, this movie was good. I like this movie a lot. Go see it. Go see the movie with your kids. If you don't have kids, go see the movie anyway. Just, hide. I don't know. Act like you have a kid. Take your nephew or some shit. Like fake that. Try to do that. Yeah, try to do that. One more thing. Why is the music so good in this movie? Now, I'm not saying this is the best music of all time, but there is something really good about the music in this movie. Like, they chose the songs that they chose. Some of the songs that they chose, I admit, weren't probably the best choices for the scenes that they were in. But considering that most likely the reason that these songs were in the movie was because of some sort of corporate, just like the Olive Garden thing, they had to do it to make money for this movie. The songs were actually really good. I mean, they're not. I would, if I had time, I would put them on my playlist. That's what I'm saying. Not to say that I would listen to them over and over again, but if I had time and I knew what they were, I actually, at the end of the credits, I actually stopped and looked closely at the songs that were at the end. So the songs, they have to be pretty good, which is pretty cool because, the only movie like this that had good songs was Alvin and the Chipmunks, and that the only reason it had that was because it's Alvin and the Chipmunks. Their original origins were copying songs and having their voice be the new song. So obviously they had to have some good songs, and I thought that the music was just a higher caliber than regular movies like this, at least, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, I thought that the commercials was very funny. They did a commercial thing where they kept on pointing out Olive Garden, and so there's like this half-ass joke that I still don't know if it's a joke or if it's like serious. Like they was like, when you're here, your family, and I'm like, was that a joke or is this commercial? I don't understand. I thought that was dope. I thought that was hilarious. But at the same time, it was extremely annoying because, like, they didn't keep talking about Olive Garden, but yeah, it's like obvious it's like either go for it or, like Wayne's World did. Wayne's World with the Pizza Hut, right? Go for it. You know what I mean? If you're going to go for it. Whereas this one, it's like they kind of half-assed it, which I kind of didn't like. But I still thought it was funny just based off the fact that they didn't do it a bunch. They did it once or twice, and then they were done with it. And then they did it one more time in the end, and then that's it. Okay. Thanks for watching.